Welcome back. The federal government's most recent AI use case inventory includes more than 1,700 examples. This year's use case inventory will be the fourth one the federal government's released. Lauren Knausenberger is Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation Officer at SAIC. She's former Chief Information Officer of the Air Force. Lauren, welcome. It's great to have you back on the program. What are the differences between integrating AI applications and other types of applications into agency workflows?
Absolutely. So there are some things that are very similar in that you have some sort of an offering. Maybe it's open source, maybe it's software that you are installing in your environment that you're operating, or that you're leveraging in a cloud, either your own or a public cloud. And then, of course, you are thinking about, first and foremost, how am I going to get the most use out of whatever this offering is? How do I solve the most important problem that I have? So those things are absolutely the same. Also in government, of course, you have a few decades of equipment that are generally lying around. You do have more modern systems that you're interacting with, but also a good number of legacy systems collecting data, and a lot of our defense enterprise, of course. You know, you have some older systems that, some of which actually still work pretty well, but they do need to interact with more modern systems. And so getting everything to talk, of course, is a challenge across the board, making sure that you know what data is most important, making sure that you know what questions and missions you are trying to, effect. But what gets a little bit different when you're integrating AI is that with kind of mission IT, enterprise IT environments, you tend to have at least a relatively more stable set of data feeds, at least. The data changes all the time, but you largely know where the data's coming from. You largely kind of understand the data set. With AI, you have a growing number of models available to you. And the models they do different things. And as data changes and as models change, you do need to move out models that aren't as important anymore and heavily leverage those that are more important. Sometimes you have to retrain them. You have to, of course, constantly be thinking about it from a cyber perspective as well, ensuring you're not subject to data poisoning or any other type of, the typical things that you need to do to protect an AI model. You also have to worry, just like with traditional systems, about traceability, but even more so with AI. How did the algorithm go through the logic that it did to get to the answer that it's giving you? And also having a bit of, you have to have a little bit of different expertise to think through what type of model am I using, and to really orchestrate and govern those across whatever plane you're looking at. So for instance, humans tend to interact a little better with LLMs. With ChatGPT kind of taking over the world, so to speak, people can now speak to a computer as well as a really brilliant developer in some cases. You can just say, hey, can you go do this? And it can build any number of things just speaking to you. But there are models that are better at interpreting images, for instance. If you ask ChatGPT to interpret an image, it might not do that as well as some other models might. Other models might do better at looking at sensor data and removing noise, and probably interacting with a human to understand which sensors maybe we trust a little bit more than others, bringing in some of those operational context items as well.
One of the things that you and I talked about when you were at the Air Force was the fact that you wanted to make sure that the force didn't adopt artificial intelligence for the sake of artificial intelligence. How did you, and how would you advise others to go about analyzing problems and determining whether AI fits the problem rather than the problem fitting the technology?
Absolutely. So I almost think of this in two different ways. In general, when you're solving problems, I think you should be just laser focused on, these are my biggest problems, these are my biggest operational bottlenecks, these are the biggest roadblocks for my people, and start there and figure out the best way to solve the problem, whether it involves AI or not. That's first. A lot of times, though, it does. There is a lot of manual process. There's a lot of distributed data. There are a lot of places where you can reduce the cognitive burden on people and on systems, and really free up some of that just menial time for people to make high-level decisions and to be able to do it faster and better and have a little bit of an AI check to go along with the human. But I do think that there is a case for enterprise AI tooling. And so in cases like, for instance, ChatGPT, if you are, especially in a headquarters organization, especially in a government headquarters organization, there's a lot of time that is spent on knowledge management, even manually. A lot of requests that go out, hey, what do we think about this topic or that topic? And a lot of times it's really hard to find the knowledge that you're looking for. But if you're leveraging an LLM and you make a conscious effort to train it, then if you answered something once, it's answered again, and it can be put in the context of other things. And so that is something that could save people a lot of time and agencies a lot of money on things that people don't enjoy doing. A lot of folks do not enjoy being an action officer running around trying to grab the thing that might have been answered last week. But there's also things like Power BI and Copilot that a lot of enterprises have or can get relatively easily, where all of a sudden your software developers they're more efficient and effective. They have a partner that can check their code, that can write their test scripts for them, that can do some additional testing, kind of bounce ideas with them, and so it's a really great use case in general for that workforce. It has other applications for non-developers as well. And then for Power BI or things like it, you kind of empower your workforce to say, I don't necessarily have all of the answers to the best AI use case, but you are doing your job every day, and you are empowered to get rid of the things that you do not want to do that a machine should be doing for you, or to automate different parts of the workflow. I do think that it is really important, though, to think about AI even more when you're thinking about really complex systems. So we already think of, we were talking about integration earlier, if you think of a really complex problem, like border security, you have a really long border, you have disparate sets of sensors, sometimes by different companies, you have different groups of officers who are trying to watch their part of it. And trying to do that across stovepipe systems, it requires a lot of communication. It's possible that you could make errors. Luckily, we have some amazing people working those missions. But if you were able to integrate those well, get old and new to integrate properly, and then layer data AI on top of it, you could absolutely more optimally route things, more easily communicate things, and get the exact data in the hands of the person that needs to action it now.
Lauren, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining me.
All right. Thanks, Francis. Great to be here.
You can read more about AI in government on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com.